Hello everybody, this is Germ. This is going to be a Gunmaster game on Zyba Tower, but the gameplay really has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is a question one of you has sent in, a issue you are having with your computer and getting it to play games. I love answering people's computer questions, send them in. It's a lot of fun for me, I like trying to help. So anyway, on to the question. Almost all of my games stutter and I do not know why. I also feel like my computer isn't fully being used. Simple games get very poor FPS or frames per second. I posted this on Yahoo Answers as well, and they said it is my CPU, and here are his relevant specs for this. Windows 7 Home Premium, i3 2390T, 8 gigs DDR3, a 560 Ti. He plays at 1080p. Alright, so I have a couple ideas of what it could be. First thing I think you ought to check is if you are torrenting anything. It sounds like this actually might be a ping issue. So if you've got uTorrent running or any other torrent program, any other large downloads, that'll really mess up your ping. What ping is, just in case you don't know, it's kind of the lag between the server and you. So when you do something in Battlefield 3, ping is the amount of time, and this is kind of a layman's description. Ping is the amount of time it takes for the computer to take that action, send it in, for the server to process what you did, process the response, and send it back. Good ping for playing an online first-person shooter or anything like that is less than 100 milliseconds is good. Less than 200 is normally fairly playable. Over 200 you can start to see some weird stuff pop up. One of those things is stuttering, where it looks like you are playing. Everything else should be running fine. Your computer should have plenty of power, but the game just stutters and freezes intermittently. And that will happen if you're running a large download, especially torrents. Torrents are especially bad about this because they are uploading information at the same time as they are downloading. So if you are running anything like that, I would pause that immediately. Next thing I would do to check is go to speedtest.net. It will look somewhat like this. Click the begin test button, the test will run, and at the end it will give you three numbers: your ping, your download speed, and your upload speed. As long as both your download speed and your upload speed are above about 500 kilobytes per second, or kilobits per second, sorry, you should be fine as for playing most online games, but your ping is what you really want to be looking at. If your ping is something like 20, 50 milliseconds, 20 or 50, 75 maybe, you're doing alright. If it's well over 100, you may have an issue. By the way, was that a super boss kill that guy did on the other guy? Not what I did to him, but what the other guy did when he jumped down the stairs. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so if your ping is really high like that, you know something else is going on. If you share your internet with roommates or family members or something, go check and see if they're downloading or torrenting anything, because that could also be affecting you. Now, let's assume it's not your ping. You test it, and your ping and your download speeds and your upload speeds, those are all okay. Your games are still stuttering. Also, if you're playing games offline that are stuttering, obviously that doesn't really have much to do with your ping. So there's a couple other things we can look at. I don't think it's your processor. I've looked up your processor. The 2390T is a dual-core processor with hyper-threading, which means it can kind of act kind of like a little bit of a quad-core sometimes. Not super much like a quad-core, but it's kind of helpful. It's better than just a regular dual-core. Some games can take advantage of this, some games can't really, but depending on what games you're playing, your processor really should be fine. Most modern games are much more dependent on your GPU, on your graphics card, than they are your processor. And you have a very respectable processor, so I don't think that's the issue. But just to rule that out, just so we can make sure, what I want you to do is press Control-Alt-Delete, open up your task manager, and then go to the Performance tab. The Performance tab will look like this. So I think you should open it and play a little bit of your favorite game or one of the games you're having issues with. And if you have a second monitor, have that up on your second monitor. If not, just get the game open, get to a place where you're in the middle of playing a fairly intensive section. Wait till it starts stuttering, and then Alt-Tab out of the game and look at your performance monitor with the game running in the background. You should still be able to see how much of your CPU and RAM it's using. You have 8 gigs of RAM, so I doubt it's going to be using all your RAM. I don't know of any modern game that can use that much RAM on a PC, or that needs to use that much RAM on a PC. But if your processor is near the top, like 70% to 100%, it might be your processor somewhat, but I would be very surprised if that's the case. I had a pretty good terror right there, except for that guy who killed me. But Yeah, so I'd be surprised if it's your processor, but opening up the performance monitor and going to the, or task manager and going to the performance monitor tab will help you see if that is the case. So let's assume that your ping is pretty good, that your connection speed is good, that you're not running any torrents in the background. Um, let's assume that your CPU isn't really being fully utilized, which in most modern games it isn't. That's normal. And you're still having the stuttering problem. Then what it most likely is drivers for your graphics card. They are most likely the issue. A driver is just the software that makes your piece of hardware work. So the graphics card driver is just the code written to keep the graphics card working and to tell it what to do and how to work. And there are frequent updates for those, and sometimes an update introduces issues in certain programs. They fix one thing and break another, which is why if something's not broken, I pretty much never upgrade, or I never run software updates for things like graphics cards if I'm not experiencing any issues right now, because until the update's been out for a month or so and I've been able to hear what the community's been saying, because quite often there are little issues with new versions of drivers. But I would recommend finding out what version of the graphics card drivers you are using right now. You can do that by right-click on your desktop and select the NVIDIA Control Panel from the drop-down menu. On the NVIDIA Control Panel, go to Help, System Information. The driver version is listed at the top of the Details window, just like it says here on screen. So anyway, you'll want to check and see how up-to-date your drivers are, and then go see what the latest version is on the NVIDIA website available for your graphics card. If it's a lot newer, then you need to update, especially if you installed your drivers from the disk that came with your graphics card. Those are almost always quite a few months out of date, and they could be causing some serious performance issues or just some bugs in some of the games you're playing. That happens all the time, so I would heavily recommend checking those out. So lastly, let's say your ping is good, no one's torrenting anything. Your CPU isn't being utilized max or isn't being used a ton, so you think that's not the problem. Your drivers are up to date and you're still having issues. There's one more thing I think we can try. If you go into your control panel in Windows and then open up power options or power usage options, see if your computer is set to power saver. I don't know if you have a laptop or a desktop. I'm pretty sure it's a desktop, right? It would think it would have to be to have that graphics card in it. Check your power settings. If your desktop is set to power saver or something, that could be affecting your performance. I've seen that most of the time in a custom built desktop. That shouldn't be an issue, but if it's store-bought and modified or something like that, that still could be an issue. Just make sure it's set to high performance, set it all the way up. I mean, it's a desktop, you're not trying to like save battery life or anything, and setting it to high performance really isn't going to use a lot more of your power. If you have this computer, you're probably not worried about a couple dollars on your power bill anyway if you spent this much money building a gaming computer. So that's what I would try. If you're still having the issue in multiple games, then it's got to be something specific to your computer. Without taking a look at your computer, I'm not sure if I can narrow it down further. I mean, there's a couple little random problems I've run into in computers before, but I don't know if I could talk you through them that well over a YouTube video. So let me know how this works I'm speaking to the particular person who asked this question, who will watch this video. But if any of the rest of you have been having issues like this, hopefully this video will help you kind of figure out what might be going on. Those are just some of the solutions I've discovered to problems like this in the past, and there have been solutions like that. Other common issues that cause stuttering, just so you guys know, if you're running video cards in SLI or Crossfire, depending on if you have NVIDIA or AMD, a lot of the times they can cause stuttering in games that have not been patched to support them properly. I know Battlefield 3 has a big issue with micro-stuttering using NVIDIA cards in SLI, but I don't believe this guy is using SLI. He doesn't mention it. It sounds like he just has the one card. So it's probably not an issue for him, but it might be an issue for you. Also, if you're playing on multiple monitors, you can have stuttering issues. I have the ability to play on multiple monitors, but I do not because I have had bad stuttering issues. I have an AMD 6870, So I'm not running Crossfire or anything, but even with the one card, all my drivers up to date, everything like that, if I switch to multiple monitors, I can get stuttering issues. So those are just some things to try. If anyone has any more suggestions, if you've run into this problem and fixed it another way that might be helpful, make sure to leave it in the comments so the person who had this problem can see the solution. I mean, we're a community. I love helping everyone else out. I love us helping each other to get the most fun out of our games. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any more questions, send them in, and have a great day.